Life's greatest questions have always been, who am I? Where did I come from? Why am I here? Where am I going? You are about to see and hear one of the most significant messages given to us from God.
You ready? Let's go!
I welcome you all, basketball degenerates, to a revamped version of the Pass First, Shoot Later podcast brought to you by the OC Basketball League. I'm your host, Zico Pepic, here with my partners in crime, Michael Van Wyck and Omar Almadine. Fellas, how you guys doing?
Doing good.
I know Mike's doing really good right now.
Yeah. Good day today.
Yeah. As a background to any new listeners, we run a basketball league together. That's the OC Basketball League. We've had a podcast up for a while. The podcast has been based on our league. We've interviewed players and everything like that during the season, but we're switching things up. That's why it's revamped. Instead of talking about our basketball league, we'll be talking about NBA news. But as a quick reference, Michael's team is going into the finals. He beat Omar's team tonight.
I didn't.
I'm sorry. Omar's team lost to the team that Michael will be facing in the finals.
We did beat Omar's team when we played them.
Yeah. So my team didn't do so well, and I don't need to talk about that. So I'm glad to just talk NBA news at this point.
Yeah, basketball karma got me today.
Yeah.
So we'll leave it at that. Basketball gods.
But yeah, this is now going to be an NBA podcast. The entire league is always talking basketball. We're always talking basketball. All of us are into it. It's been our main focus, I would say, for the last 20 years, as long as we've known each other. We've run other leagues together, tournaments, all that stuff, and we play together a lot. And by the way, for anybody wondering, that's not Omar snoring, that's my dog. Sorry about that. So
yeah, why you gonna put that on me? I know I got sleep apnea, but damn, I don't got my machine on right now.
Oh man, I gotta mess with you a little bit, Omar.
Okay, you're
good.
As far as the basketball backgrounds, Omar, I'm going to start with you since you're just talking. Talk about yourself, what you bring to the table. We know we're not probably the Greg Popoviches of the basketball world, but we all know basketball pretty well at this point and have been around it. So I kind of want to go over our experiences with it.
No, I mean, definitely, like you said, we've been around the game long enough. Playing wise, not there anymore, but I am involved in basketball from the coaching standpoint, AAU through high school, dealing with some college players. I do have a college team has participated over the last summers in a couple of college summer leagues. We are the champs of this summer. So I got a couple Division I and some JUCO kids that I help to get them to the next level. And just try to pass on the knowledge that was been passed on to me over the years.
Mike, I'm going to introduce you as the stat geek of the group. You are a numbers guy, and I love that about you. So talk about Mr. Statistical Analysis.
There you go. Analytics. Nah, sometimes. I mean, I've just, same as Omar, I've been playing basketball for a while. I'm not as in playing as much or involved as I used to be. We're doing this league on Sundays. I play in another league here on Tuesdays. And then most of my time now is watching kids basketball because I got two little boys, 10 and 8, that are doing it. But yeah, as far as watching, I watch it when I can, NBA stuff, but all numbers. I check box scores, go through that. Defensive ratings, offensive ratings, that type of stuff. That's where you're going to tell the story. Stats are big. You can look at a stat sheet and figure out who's doing what.
Mike gets paid to look at numbers all day, so it's a little different.
True. That's true. I am
but numbers do lie, Mike.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
Ask Jay-Z.
Hey, in my opinion, since we talk about basketball, folks like you killed the game right now. All these analytics and all this stuff about percentages from the corner and percentages from the wing has ruined the game. So people like you, Mike, have ruined the game, in my opinion.
I'm all for mid-range games. I'm not that far gone into analytics, but the numbers say it, and I mean, it's getting wins, right?
I think that's a good time to bring myself up. Omar is a little bit of more of the old school fundamental type. Mike is new school statistical type, although he still has a little old school edge to him. I am somewhere in the middle. I love the statistical analysis. However, being the old school game that I love so much and grew up watching, I also have a little bit of that fundamental aspect where I could see and know and won't have to look at all the box scores to understand how the game is played. I played high school and college basketball, community college, nothing too crazy. I've been playing in leagues since I was done with school. Leagues, tournaments, all kinds of stuff. I played FIBA 3-on-3 basket in Europe a couple summers, had a lot of fun doing that. So I've also coached high school basketball as an assistant and trained players and ran AAU circuit. So same thing, got a decent background in basketball. It's the thing I love the most in my life, aside from my family and work and all the other things that I have to focus on. So
Nobody loves work.
I mean,
That's Joker. Nobody loves work.
Zico's the example of when you work for yourself, you enjoy what you do. So
exactly.
this is a perfect example.
Exactly.
He loves what he does because he works for himself.
It just depends on the day of the week. We'll leave it at that. There are days you don't.
Yeah, and depending on if the certain employees are not there.
Like
Yes, exactly.
We've
Okay.
known each other for a long time, people. So there's going to be a lot of like personal jokes that are, that are going to bring up 20 years of friendship. So we're going to
This
slide
will
some
be a
in there.
mess.
And
This will
I
be
don't want to go too far off topic, but that FIBA 3-on-3 stuff, if you guys have never done that, that's different.
so much fun.
8 baskets on inbound the ball under the bed. That's crazy.
No, it's
Oh, yeah.
it's a lot of fun. It's actually more tiring than playing 5-on-5. I'm not joking. It moves so much quicker than people expect. The only interesting thing is the big men don't move as much. They kind of camp out high post for most of the game and are initiating all the passing. So for a guard, you get your work. You burn a lot of calories playing that. So
Definitely with the no inbounding as well, and
yeah,
the possession changes so quick, the game is so fast. It's
I made
interesting.
a lot of mistakes, honestly. I there was multiple times where just instinct of playing here for so long, it's like check up.
Yep.
Oh, you talk
got
about
burned on
exactly
the
what my team did today when they had a chance to cut the lead and possibly make a comeback and just decided to just turn the ball over. It happens.
It happens. It happens to the best of us.
4 times.
That's why Mike don't take the ball out no more. Have you noticed that?
Okay, so we're gonna move on to NBA talk.
There
Okay,
you go.
yeah, I think that's the way to go.
Let's start with a 5-game losing streak.
5-game losing streak. Oh, I wonder who did that. Yeah, we'll start with the teams that are here, where we're from, the Lakers and the Clippers. We're gonna focus on the division for every division in the NBA, and today we're gonna focus on the Pacific Division, which happen to have again the Lakers and the Clippers. And we're gonna start with the Clippers because that's probably the reason we started this podcast and the change. The James Harden trade was what made me want to talk about this and start this podcast, this revamped version of the Pass First Shoot Later podcast. I have never been too big of a James Harden fan. I'm not going to sit and bash James Harden because I know he is an amazing player, but he's not the kind of player I want on my team. And although I've been a lifelong Laker fan, I'm also disappointed, but at the same time, kind of excited to see him on the Clippers. It's one of the most confusing situations I've ever seen. The Clippers made a very good trade. At the same time, Philly made a very good trade for themselves. But there are these repercussions when you get a player of the magnitude that James Harden comes with. I think Russell Westbrook's similar situation to that when he came to the Lakers. There's going to be high expectations, and it has been a disappointment to start.
I don't think he fits the mold that the Clippers were looking for. I mean, they got 2-way players. I mean, Westbrook, I said enough about Westbrook in the past. I mean, the dude works hard, but he can't shoot. But You got James Harden who doesn't play defense, and you have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, Zubac. Those guys are playing defense, and James
and,
Harden.
and Russ fits in defensively, so you
Yeah,
can't take
that's
that
what I'm
away
saying.
from him. So,
But that's just too many dudes who need the ball. James Harden needs the ball. Russell Westbrook needs the ball. I feel like Kawhi and Paul George don't need it,
but Paul George is the tweener between needing the ball versus not needing the ball.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, you bring up a very valid point. He doesn't. It's not what the Clippers really needed, and I think that statement that he made about I'm the system versus being in the system. I mean, that just says a lot about the approach or the mindset coming into this trade. I mean, I'm not going to bash James Harden
I will.
because um, you know, I'll probably cross path with the man, so I'm not trying to get called out on the spot about it. But the
Because
reality is, I
he
don't
will
think.
be listening to this podcast. So like whatever
I
you
hope it.
think will
I
get
hope.
At some point, he's gonna go
Yeah.
back.
I
And
hope
listen.
it. I hope it gets to homie AJ. Make sure James watches this. But at the end of the day, I think he doesn't want to play basketball the way everybody thinks he wants to at this point. I think he's been bouncing around the league. I think he's just going through the motions of being. He's still one of the elite scorers in the league, so you can't take that away from him. But I just don't think he wants to win the way others think he does by joining a team like the Clippers and what the Clippers are trying to accomplish. Keep trying to accomplish. I'll say that as a Laker fan.
Yeah, basketball is a two-way sport. He's only playing one side. You're not going to win that way. I said it when D'Antoni was running his teams, and Harden fit into that, and he was all about it. We're just going to score more points, and that doesn't work. Does not work.
I will say this. If I were forced to coach James Harden, and I were to build a team around James Harden, I think the first thing I would do is I would make sure that there are 4 defenders on the court at all times around James Harden. I think that's something that could help him. When you mask that weakness with 4 elite defenders, like not just any defenders. I mean, Zubac, I wouldn't consider elite. He's solid. He plays positional defense. He plays drop coverage really well, but he can't switch out onto guards, so that could be an issue. But when you have guys like Kawhi, Paul George, and even Russell Westbrook, who is a little older at this time, but still competes defensively, I think that could be used to mask some of James Harden's weakness. I just my worry is offense. It's like you guys said, there's a lot of guys who need the ball, and I feel like this is his last chance. Like he's there for a year and he's a free agent, and if he blows this, for him to go from OKC to Houston to Brooklyn to Philadelphia, now to the Clippers, if he blows this, it's not the end of his career, but it's the end of his big contracts. Nobody's going to pay him that much again, ever again.
I disagree. There's going to be a stupid GM and a stupid owner out there that's going to throw some money at James Harden because at the end of the day, whether he wins or loses and plays defense, he will sell some tickets.
Yeah, but it's not about money for him because if it was about money, he would have re-signed in Philadelphia.
They got
Well, I don't think it's about him winning anymore.
But they have the blueprint from Carmelo. I'm not saying they're the same player by any stretch of the imagination, but Carmelo went that same way. He just was good on one side of the court. He fell away from what he was able to do. He wasn't the player he was. He bounced around, and now he's out. He thought he could play. Lakers took a flyer on a cheap contract, and it didn't work.
See, I know you brought up a comparison player, and you're not by any means comparing them, but I know this topic is strictly about the Pacific Division in the NBA right now, but Zico, let's table this because I'd like to revisit this conversation about his comparison to Carmelo. Because if we start comparing both their careers, you really can't compare those. And so let's just table that for another time and put that Carmelo conversation because I want to come back to this one, Mike.
I think it's actually a valid comparison. I understand what you're saying. I think that there's going to be more validity to it when we kind of go over some other things. But I can't help but wonder if he might get blacklisted at some point for doing some of the stuff he did. He went out and he blasted a general manager. And, Daryl Morey's a pretty big name in terms of general managers. Think about the smaller market general managers. Do they really want to risk their positions, signing this guy and pursuing him for big money and having him go through some of this stuff and do some of the stuff he did? This kind of goes to more than basketball at this point. And I think that's the issue that James Harden's going to be facing going forward.
Well, I agree with you from that perspective, but then again, we're talking about the TV deals play a difference, right? There's a lot of money that comes with certain players.
Like at this point, he's not on TV anymore. He missed half the season last year. Comes out of shape. Like at some point, like, look, we were talking before about Luka and Harden being really similar game, but like Luka being the white boy, he's kind of getting a little more hype right now when they were really similar. Luka doesn't come with some of this baggage that Harden's bringing right now. And like at some point, like when you start bringing that baggage, however good you are, they're going to stop talking about you on purpose. Dwight Howard, the same thing happened. How is it right now? And we're talking about the Pacific Division. So Dwight Howard to me is extremely relevant. There's multiple teams in the Pacific Division that can compete with Denver to win a title. However, their one weakness is none of them can stop Jokic. The one guy that I've seen successfully bother Jokic was Dwight Howard when he was playing with the Lakers. And you know what?
There's 14. But that's not the same. That's not the same Jokic.
Well, I know, correct. But I'm just saying Dwight Howard has been blacklisted for the NBA. We don't know for what, but he put on spectacle wherever he went. He did the same thing. He wasn't happy here. He wasn't happy there. The money wasn't enough. Then he'd go to a different team. And now what's happening? He's playing in China. I don't think James Harden's going to be playing in China. But if you think all those TV deals are coming, he's not marketable at this point. There's so many guys I'd rather throw my money at to market than him. He might get marketed in China and have like a shoe deal or something coming like that. But how else are you going to sell this guy?
I get your point. We won't know until it actually happens. And like you said, this season is very important for him. And let's see how this plays out. I mean, at the end of the day, when we talk about superstar teams, right, or those big threes, he's been on a couple big threes for several of these teams. And I mean, to me, I was a big time James Harden fan when he was in OKC, and I think with him, KD, and Russ, that was a hell of a trio. And I know they couldn't pay them, small market team, and we're not going to get into that. But the way they coexisted then, it just hasn't been able to be replicated elsewhere. Just even when he was in Brooklyn, I mean, you're talking about he was with KD again, and he had Kyrie, and they couldn't coexist. When he was in Houston, he had Russ at one point. I forgot who was the third musketeer there, and now in Philly, you with Embiid.
Houston too.
Huh?
Chris Paul in Houston too.
Well, there you go.
He was with Chris Paul. He was with Russell Westbrook. They had like a great team.
Yeah.
Clint Capella was on that team. PJ Tucker. I forgot.
So now you're looking at it. I mean, how is he going to coexist? If he can find that inner OKC James Harden and coexist and revamp?
Yeah, he might find OKC Harden again, but in terms of like Melo coming back to OKC and playing like that, and I don't even think OKC wants him at this point with the way they're looking and how bright.
No. I meant just that James Harden.
I'm being sarcastic.
To the Clippers.
Yeah, I'm being sarcastic. I don't see that. I don't see that James Harden back ever again.
Who thinks that James Harden's going to get traded from the Clippers before the deadline?
I don't.
No, I think Mike, I think there's an NBA rule there's an NBA rule for trade. Yeah, so I don't think he'll
be eligible.
Will he?
Yeah,
he will be.
Yeah, so he will not. He can't be traded. Actually, I think it's for like a month, but 30 days or something like that before he could be traded again. He could be traded for one player straight up, but again, like which team? The only team I could like possibly envision doing it is like the Chicago Bulls. Like, what do they have to lose? It's like, yeah, we'll trade him straight up for DeRozan just to
take DeRozan for him right now.
I would, if I were the Clippers, I would do it right now.
Oh, if I were the Clippers, yeah.
I think DeRozan would feel a lot better with the Clippers, but does he want to go to Chicago? If he goes to Chicago and he's not happy, do they want to deal with him? You know, like that's the issue you're dealing with right now. But
Send him to
No,
Washington.
I trade him to Portland.
Portland doesn't want him. Why do they want him?
They
You
got
gotta
nothing.
like think business, and this is the other aspect I'm gonna bring. Think business. You're thinking about it now from a Clipper standpoint. I would trade him with Portland. Okay, why does Portland want him? Like think about it from an actual business standpoint. Like what do they need him for? They're a rebuilding mode. They have DeAndre Ayton. They have Scoot Henderson, who they just drafted, which that's like and Shaden Sharp.
But Scoot's struggling right now. So
Right, but he's a rookie. Like, would you rather put your money in a rookie who costs what $7 million a year, $8 million a year, or would you go pay for Harden for $30 million a year?
Yeah, but why the Clippers want him?
Why did the Clippers want him?
That's
Clippers
crazy.
want it. I know why the Clippers want it. Clippers want it because all the LA boys are back together in town. You know, Paul George, Kawhi, Russell. You know, like it's
Well,
adding.
let's correct that and say the California boys. You can't say the LA boys
Sorry, my
because you know people are going to point that out. But at the end of the day, if you put it in that perspective, there's not really a team that could use James Harden right now because the teams that are competing, he doesn't fit, and the teams that's rebuilding, they're not going to pay that much money for a guy that could be a cancer to the team.
Right. Chicago Bulls are the only team I could see doing it. I was serious about that. I wasn't like just joking about that because they lost Lonzo Ball, who unfortunately, who I'm a big fan of. He's probably done for his career. They're a kind of team where I could see them doing it just because they could use a name. They haven't had a big name since Derrick Rose, and like Levine is cool and all, but he's not.
I mean, DeMar's a big name.
Yeah, but DeMar, he can't be the face of a franchise. Like Harden, you can put at the face of a franchise. DeRozan is like your number 2.
Just real quick, because I'm sure we could continue to talk about the Clippers. Are we really trying to just do Clippers, or are we trying to get?
No. We're gonna go. Right. I will say this. Like, okay, let's look at this now before we move off from the Clippers. Okay, my whole aspect of this podcast is analyzing a team's potential, and showing what they're capable of. There's going to be teams that are rebuilding teams. There's going to be teams that are playoff contenders, and there's going to be teams that are title contenders. I think my question with this Clipper roster right now, they have a deep team. They have a really deep team considering the players that they have. Like example being their starting lineup is Zubats, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, James Harden, Russell Westbrook. Off the bench, they have Mason Plumlee, Norman Powell, PJ Tucker, Bones Highland, and Terrence Mann. That's 10 deep. That's a solid team. And I know I'm missing somebody as well, but that's a solid team. Is this team a contender, or is it a title contender, or is it a playoff contender?
They still got a lot to prove before I can even put them in the playoff contender right now. Because if you just look at the teams, I know we're talking about the Pacific Division, but just look at other teams in the West. There's teams that are gelling better than them, and there's teams that already have better records than them. And they're on a 5-game losing streak right now after that trade.
Right.
So I mean, they might playoff wise, it's not a long shot just because right now the way the Pacific Division is looking right now, nobody has a clear cut lead on that division. And I mean, everybody has a minimum of 4 losses. And so and then not each team is playing inconsistent basketball right now.
I agree with that. I would say they're a play-in team. I think they can get that 9 or 10 spot. It is still early in the season. If they start to gel, maybe, but they're not winning the championship. James Harden's not winning the championship.
Okay, here's one thing I will go along with. Let's say this team starts gelling, things work out. What is the piece they need to add to this group to make it a contender?
A second basketball.
I mean, Mike ain't lying there, but you know, bringing up like you mentioned, that starting 5 that you mentioned, they're lacking that real 3-and-D guy, that real catch and shoot 3 guy. Because yes, we know Zubac and Russ can't shoot, so put that aside. Then you're talking about Paul George, Kawhi, and James as your 3-point shooters. And really, all three of those prefer to shoot off the dribble. Paul George might get a couple catch and shoot threes, but really he's not. Who's going to create for him? Yeah, you got Russ there. Yeah, you got James, but both of them are looking for theirs first.
I think the honest opinion, if I had to do something, it would be as a coach, you got to convince either Westbrook or Harden to come off the bench. One of those guys has to be the sixth man. Bring in another power forward, stretch four, maybe somebody who can guard multiple positions. That way, you don't have Kawhi Leonard or Paul George guarding bigs.
Well, that's what they hope. That's what they're hoping Brandon Boston is. Brandon Boston Jr. That's what they're hoping he can turn into. But he's only year two.
To do that though. I like Brandon Boston Jr. He's the other guy that I forgot about. I agree with Mike. The stretch four is kind of what I was focused on with this team. If they could somehow, like, I know there's going to be those veterans who get bought out and are going to be free agents. If a stretch four comes on the market, just throwing it out there example, like someone like a Kevin Love type of guy who's going to come in, I'm just going to hit threes and set big screens for those guards coming around and do pick and pops with them. Just someone random like that. I think that could open up the floor big time for this team. Like
Kevin Love 7 years ago.
I know. The example.
Yeah. I know what you're saying.
That type of player, but that style of player who could set the high screen, pick and pop off of it. I think that's. I agree with you, Mike. That was kind of what I was thinking too with this team. I think that's what they're missing if they're going to actually compete for a title this season.
You want to stick on losing streaks and move to the team in first place on a 3-game losing streak?
Yes, actually, I think that's a good way to approach this. The Golden State Warriors. I'm not surprised to see it. I don't think it's an issue, but I'm not surprised to see them going on a little bit of a losing streak. I think there's going to be ups and downs for Golden State this whole season. I don't want to face them. Any other team if I'm any other team in the playoffs, I don't want to face them in the playoffs, especially in the first round. This is a veteran team. They're older. There's going to be banged up injuries for Chris Paul, for Draymond Green, for Clay, and for Steph. Steph is going to have to carry a big load during the season. I think he's probably the one that's going to stay healthiest throughout the season. Last season you had a younger player in Jordan Poole who could kind of cover for some of that. You don't have that this season. I don't think it matters. I think they're better without Jordan Poole and with Chris Paul, but I'm not surprised. I think this is going to be on the regular throughout the season. And once playoff comes, again, this is the last team you want to face in the playoffs.
You think Chris Paul's going to stay healthy for the whole season? Because, we know he has a tendency to get hurt, that hamstring come playoff time, that wear and tear. He's 38.
I do. Actually, I think this is probably the best chance Chris Paul will ever have at getting a championship. And the reason why is because he's playing next to Steph Curry and Draymond Green. I don't think he's ever been in a situation where he has so much less pressure on him. He doesn't have to play more than 20, 25 minutes a game. At the same time, he's the kind of player that if Steph is hobbled, you can throw out there to play more minutes. I think this saves Chris Paul's legs and probably even extends his career by a couple of seasons as well, if he stays there. So,
I was going to say, I agree. Chris Paul's got the least amount of load he's got to carry. He's probably, if you look at it, the fourth option on that team, just because he's the new guy. You've got Thompson, you've got Curry, you've got Draymond. And I'm not saying Draymond scores like Chris Paul when they both go, but he's been with the team. They know Draymond's a leader. Draymond sets the tone for that team. So I think Chris Paul can play those limited minutes. But at the same time, when they get into the playoffs, I think they'll be in a similar situation they were last season. They'll come out of the first round easy. Whoever they play in the second round, they'll probably lose to, but then that team will be gassed from chasing them around that they'll lose to whoever. I don't get me wrong. I think Denver was far and away better than everybody last year, but I think if they had to play Golden State to go to play the Lakers, I think that those would have been reversed. I think the Lakers got so gassed chasing those dudes around that they were done, and they couldn't do it with Denver. And I think that'll be the same for whoever plays them this year.
But you guys, going back to what you guys mentioned, I'm stealing a little bit of Mike's thunder, but you guys are talking about Chris Paul's minutes. He is still averaging 27 minutes a game for his career. Over the last 5 years, he's been anywhere between 31 to 32 minutes a game. So he's not that far off, even playing with that roster. So,
but are all
again,
minutes the same? You think he's the same minutes? He's not guarding the best dude anymore. He's not chasing the fastest guy. He's not bringing the ball up the court every play. He's not the one pushing it. It's not the same 27 minutes he's been playing.
Okay, that's a fair statement. That's a fair statement.
I agree with that. I think that's the difference. It's the what's going to happen in game, and I think probably playing with James Harden and playing with Booker helped him a little bit as well to extend his career in that matter. But still, he had so much responsibility because he was the number 2 on those teams. On this team, like Mike said, he's probably the 4th option.
It may be the 5th, because if you're throwing Draymond in there from a leadership standpoint, we can't forget that Jonathan Kuminga.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying, and who to me, this is probably the year where he can, step up. Without Jordan Poole there, that has to be their third. Because they still got Andrew Wiggins. Let's not forget about.
That's what I was gonna say. You still have Wiggins going.
He's my third option. That's my third option on this team. It's Steph,
so
it's Wiggins.
Yeah, and then Andrew, then Jonathan, and then then you start talking about Chris Paul. I mean, if they stay healthy, then could be a problem.
I'm most interested to watch Jonathan Kuminga this season because of Chris Paul. Last season you had Jordan Poole taking all those shots in that second unit. Obviously started a lot of games too, but when it was that second unit came in, Jonathan Kuminga is on the court with Jordan Poole, Kuminga didn't touch the ball. There's so many possessions where Jordan Poole looked him off, and Jordan was scoring. He was the second leading scorer on the team at that point. You can't, write him off when he's scoring at that, trajectory and efficiency. So now Chris Paul is going to be looking for Kuminga and Moody as well. I think that those two guys are going to have great years because of Chris Paul, and that second unit can be really scary once they start rolling.
And yeah, Chris Paul's coming off the bench. So, I mean, he's playing against dudes that aren't really top NBA point guards. He's not getting the Jamal Murrays.
And he won't have defensives literally planning for him the night before. So
they're like, oh yeah, Chris Paul's on this team. My bad.
Yeah. But the team that disappointed me to start the season is the Sacramento Kings.
Before we jump there, Omar, this is one of the teams I was just talking about, by the way, which the Warriors. Okay. Looking at this team, what is the piece they need to actually compete with Denver, to be able to knock Denver out? What is the piece they need? Look at their roster and you see a glaring hole. And I just don't understand why they didn't sign a center to start the season. Their biggest guy is 6'9", and it's Looney and Saric.
Because it's worked for them in the past.
But it's worked for them. And you're talking about they still have the best. I'm not going to say the best shooters because they're getting older, right? But they still have, the top 5 shooters in the game right now, hands down. And if they,
Steph's still the best shooter.
I got you. Yes, I'm not saying he's not, but I'm saying they're just older, right? But I think, to answer your question, Zico, if they stay healthy, though, you can't count the Warriors out. And like you said, the addition of Chris Paul now is going to play a big factor because, again, he can create, he can lead, he can get everybody else involved. The ball's not going to be stagnant with one player.
I'm going to tell you why I disagree with this. It was successful in the past for a different reason. It was successful in the past because they had defensive length to offset some of that height. They have Wiggins right now who provides defensive length.
Sometimes.
No one else. Kuminga is an offensive player. He's not a good defensive player. In the past, you had Andre Iguodala. You had Sean Livingston. Even Jordan Poole is 6'7" and long. You lost a lot of that length. There were multiple guys that they were bringing in off the bench in the past who were long defenders who could offset the height. They no longer have that, which means passes into the post to every big man that they face, a la Jokic, is going to be the easiest pass the team's going to have all season long because it's going to be smaller defenders. Clay's a little older. He's not the same since his injury. That's just being honest. And I love that guy. I know his father and everything like that. So for me, it's disappointing to see this. I would love to see him back to his regular form. He's not. Even if he was, I don't think that's enough to offset some of the teams you're going to be facing. The size of certain teams, like Denver, is 7 foot with Jokic. They have Eric Gordon, who's 6'9", Porter, who's 6'10", KCP 6'6", 6'7", Jamal Murray is 6'4". It's going to be so much harder for them to be able to guard these teams successfully. And they interviewed Dwight. I'm not even that big of a Dwight fan. I just think that when there's a necessity, you add it to your team. And I don't see anyone else is going to be available anytime soon that they can, one, trade for that's a reasonable contract without giving up a big piece, or two, someone that's going to be waived that they could sign that's going to be a difference maker aside from him. So to me,
you brought up valid points about the Denver Nuggets and their size, right? But at the end of the day, defense goes the other way around. The Michael Porters, the Aaron Gordons chasing guys off a screen, fighting through screens. They still got to guard Golden State.
Right, but they're going to be guarding Curry. This is the problem I was having with Clay at this point. If you look at Clay's numbers, his numbers are down, probably more than they've ever been. They were down last season. Jordan Poole was the second leading scorer on this team, not Clay. When you look at it like that, and the way Clay is playing, and the fact that Clay has to play defense harder than he's had in the past because the team isn't as good defensively, he's a little worn down when it comes to offense. So I don't think the team's capable of doing it the way they're used to. I think they need to add more. I think this roster is incomplete at this point.
So I know you keep bringing up big men here but I want to bring up a big man that played college here in California, right? That is still a free agent, that is a vet. And we're talking about vets here, right? So guys that have been around that can play. I mean, how come nobody's looking at Taj Gibson anymore?
I've always loved Taj Gibson. I've always loved Taj Gibson. He's
Taj is older, yes, but he's still considered some of the top free agent centers that are out there. I mean, right now, the top listed free agent centers, you're talking about Nerlens Noel as the top center right now available.
Too many.
That's not gonna,
That's what I was referring to, Amar. The fact that they've neglected that. You traded James Wiseman away, who is your future center, that you were building around. No problem. That's fine. You trade him away. You're doing something else. What have you done to replace it? They signed Dario Saric. I mean, maybe the Clippers could trade Plumlee for Dario Saric and they help each other out. And, Clippers get a stretch 4-man and, Warriors get a starting caliber center in Plumlee, who's actually injured right now. So I don't think he'll help anyway, but
it would have been nice if the Warriors would have got Porzingis versus the Celtics.
Yeah, but they'd have to give up something pretty significant for that. So probably Wiggins, and at that point you lose the only length you had defensively. Okay, we'll move on.
Wait, I know you wanted to go to Sacramento, but Phoenix is also on a 2-game losing streak, and they've been equally as disappointing, but a lot of that's because they've been injured and haven't had anybody.
And they're basically a brand new look as well.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go Phoenix and then we'll go to Sacramento after. We'll save the most interesting one for last.
So we're doing the Kings last?
Just no,
kidding. Just kidding. I know what you're doing. I'll just go up front. I think a lot of people overrate Kevin Durant. I think he is a fantastic player. I think he scores the ball well. I think his defense improved when he was in Golden State, but I don't think he can be the main guy on a championship team. I don't think he was the main guy in Golden State. So we'll lead with that.
I actually agree with you there, Mike. And I actually don't think he would have been the main guy in Brooklyn had they stayed there. I think Kyrie would have been the main guy. Just that Kyrie obviously had things going on outside of basketball that affected that team. I don't think James Harden's the main guy on a championship team either. It's no knock against them. they're phenomenal players. It's just I think KD's one of those guys that he kind of just needs help to get there, and he needs someone to take off some of that pressure. But most of that to me is because teams are going to game plan for KD first. When you have entire defenses completely focused around you and making sure you don't go off, I think that's going to affect your game regardless. And even if he's 6'11" or 6'10", whatever he is, I could shoot over almost anybody. If they're funneling passes away from you, they know what plays are going to you, they're going to make it harder and harder for you to get the ball. And it's the same thing with Clay. KD post injury is not the same, as great as he is. And I agree. I don't know if he's capable of doing that. I do think having Booker and Beal is going to be a huge help. So I think there's potential for that team to do really well. I think it's going to take time for them to figure it out. So I don't see them being like a first or second seed in the West.
Who do they have after those 4 guys, though?
Well,
Grayson
that's what
Allen.
Grayson Allen is playing big minutes for them right now. I mean, you're talking about they got Josh Okogie that came from, Minnesota, Chimezie,
Eric Gordon too.
Eric Gordon, but he's also on the older end,
Yeah, but he's
right?
hurt right now, isn't he?
No, Eric Gordon's
No, he played the other night. He
Yeah.
played the other night. But really, you're looking at this Phoenix Suns as a revamped roster, right? We're talking about a completely revamped roster here.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, they have a new coach. No knock to Frank Vogel, of course. He won a championship with the Lakers and everything. But in reality, can he really rally his troops? Is he the right coach for this team? The way they're put together, because honestly, we got to see, they're hoping Bradley Beal can really be their point guard, and that's what they're relying on.
I don't think that's going to work.
Well, that's a big red flag for them, right? So you're talking about, who do they have outside those 3? You're relying on Bradley Beal playing the 1. You have a brand new coach. Can he rally these troops? I mean, the Phoenix is underachieving because we're looking at it. Or I don't say we, but most people are just looking at the players they have on paper, right? Especially with the 3 big names.
I understand what they're trying to do with placing Bradley Beal as the point guard of the team. I don't think I don't think the team's going to play an offense that's going to be catered to a point guard. I think what you're going to see from this offense is, and this is a big sign of why they signed Nurkic, is they're going to play a European style offense where they put Nurkic at the high post. They're going to have somebody bring the ball up. I think you're going to see Booker, Beal, and KD bring the ball up. Whoever gets the rebound, whoever's closest to the ball. And what you're going to see is you're going to see that high offense where you're going to see 2 wings kicking inside to the high post, and then the big man is going to be the initiator, a la the Portland Trailblazers with Sabonis. If you remember that team, it was inbound to Sabonis and back cutters and shooters.
I get what you're trying to say, but that's not Frank Vogel's style of play as a coach. Because when he was with the Lakers, remember, he had Rondo. When he was in Indiana, he had George Hill, who at that time was a solid point guard. So every team that Frank Vogel has coached has had a point guard. And what you're trying to do is, I get what you're saying. That would apply with the coach that has a philosophy that can implement that. I don't know if Frank Vogel has that philosophy.
Since I've watched a few of the Phoenix Suns games, I can tell you he has, because they've been doing it.
Okay, is
that their missing piece then? They just need to get a point guard and call it good?
I think they need a point guard personally. Not so much from the offensive standpoint. I think from the defensive standpoint, if Bradley Beal has to waste all his energy chasing around the opposing point guard of every team, which, by the way, every single team has an elite level point guard at this point, he's going to get burned out. He's not going to have that energy in offense. I think they need a defensive style, like a la Rajon Rondo style point guard, who's going to come in there. And honestly, Patrick Beverly would probably be perfect. I know they're not going to get him, but someone like him, I'm like dead serious. Someone like him I'm going to focus on defense.
Okay.
You're disagreeing with me, Mike?
I don't think you want Patrick Beverly as your starting point guard.
I don't want him as my starting point guard. I meant someone like Patrick Beverley, someone who's going to be defensive minded and focused and just going to do the little things to
Drew
initiate
Holiday.
offense. Well, Drew Holiday.
Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart.
I don't think you're not getting Marcus Smart. You're not
No,
getting.
no, you're not gonna get him, but that's more relevant. Of Marcus
Of
Smart.
course.
So
But I
Patrick
meant like actually.
Beverly can't shoot. He can't. He's not adding anything on offense.
I don't think they need someone to. Rajon Rondo didn't add anything on offense to the Lakers team. Remember that, Omar? Like nothing. It was he just played like he'd have games where he'd have 2 points, 10 assists, and 4 steals, and he just completely controlled the game.
He was a threat. Like I don't think anyone's looking at Patrick Beverly. You know, he's not going to fake a pass and go for a layup. He's going to pass because he don't want to shoot.
I mean, he's going to go for a layup, and the entire gym is going to hear about him going for that layup and making that layup. So,
yeah, I don't have too much left from Phoenix just because I don't think anyone's seen their full team play together yet. I don't think you have a realistic sample size because, like you said, it's too new of a team. So
I agree. They need time before we. I think this is a team we're going to come back to in a couple of months, and if the podcast is still going at that point. And
nothing's stopping this podcast.
Yeah. So we this is a team I think we'll come back to when we see the full roster and how they're gelling together. Omar, you got anything else on Phoenix?
No, that's wait and see how it unfolds.
Tell us about Sacramento, Omar.
Well, Sacramento, they showed a lot last year, and they showed a lot of growth and you would think with it, because if you look at the Pacific Division right now, that has to be the youngest team in that division right now.
Probably.
Right. They have to be the youngest team overall. If you're looking at their roster, I mean, outside of JaVale McGee, they have nobody over the age. I mean, they have 2 players over the age of 30 out, 3 players over the age of 30, JaVale McGee, Harrison Barnes, and Alex Lynn. And that's and Alex Lynn doesn't get play as much as you would think. But they're the youngest team in that division, and you after their performance last year, and you would think that they would come in with a little bit more, a better start to the season. They're sitting at 500. They're 4-4.
De'Aaron Fox is hurt, by the way.
Sorry, who was that?
De'Aaron Fox is hurt.
Well, yeah, he got hurt. What game was it? I remember he got hurt, but he started off hot.
But I think Sacramento overachieved last season. So I think that boosts everybody's expectations of where they should be this year. And I don't think they're at where they were last year. I think they played well. They rallied at the right time, and I think they overachieved against teams that were, for the most part, injured. I think they can get it together and play with that. If De'Aaron Fox is hurt and missing time, then when he comes back, he'll obviously help. But I don't realistically think they're a top 3 seed in the Western Conference.
So De'Aaron Fox has played 3 games this season. He's averaging 31 points, 4.3 rebounds, and 6 assists. In those 3 games, let's see.
No, that's a big drop off.
Right.
I remember he got hurt, and I didn't know he's been out that many games.
Yeah.
But again, they do have a solid guard that showed some signs last year, but it hasn't really been able to hold that. Is Davion Mitchell. He showed some flashes last year of being a solid point guard in the league. But I don't think
about Davion Mitchell. I really like Davion Mitchell when he was in college as well. I think this is kind of one of those things where you separate the boys from the men. Davion Mitchell is a really, really good backup point guard. He's going to stand out when Fox is on his game. He's having a big night, and he comes in and takes some pressure off of him and does those little things in the limited minutes. De'Aaron Fox being out for extended time, and Davion Mitchell has to carry a bigger load. I don't think he's capable of it, or even maybe just ready for that right now. Although I think he's possibly capable of doing it down the line if he develops a little more. But I'm pretty sure Davion played 4 years of college, so he's a little older, so he probably should be there already.
Yeah.
One more thing I'm going to add real quick. I'm pretty sure I read a stat in the offseason that the Sacramento Kings had probably the healthiest roster all season last year. They had the least amount of games that players actually missed due to injuries. So when you guys talk about overachieving, I think that's a big factor in that. If you have a team that it consistently plays every single game, is not missing, it's a little easier to be consistent. I think the teams like Phoenix to start, like the Warriors to start the season, having a few injuries is going to offset you. It's going to affect your record. And I agree. I don't think Sacramento will be a top 3 seed this season, but I still think they have a really bright future. They're a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah,
A lot
100%.
of fun to watch play.
I agree.
Sabonis is amazing. Sabonis and Fox duo is great. I think Murray developing is the key to that team's future. I think he's going to be a hell of a player too. So those 3 moving forward are a threat to everybody. So I'm glad to see Sacktown have a team again, because they were definitely fun to watch in the early 2000s. So
Yeah. No,
anything you guys
I-
think that team needs though moving forward? If you were to hear, actually, let's do it like this, because this is something I like doing with young teams. Harrison Barnes is one of their older guys. At some point, he's going to be phased out. He's not going to be a starter anymore. If you were to take any young player in the NBA that's on a different team and put him with this group, so the Fox, Sabonis, Monk, Murray, Huerter, and Mitchell, if you were to put any other young player with this group to try to build a dynasty type roster, which guy would you want to add and see play with this group?
Ooh.
Well, Harrison's playing.
Banchero.
What did you say?
Paulo Banchero.
Oh, I like Paulo.
Ooh.
I love Paulo.
So-
Actually, that's a good
Run
one.
him at a 3 next to Sabonis.
Oh yeah, I actually really like that.
I was actually going to go to a player we mentioned earlier, Jonathan Kuminga, at the
Oh, yeah.
3 for them.
That's a good one too. Honestly, 3, 4. Him and Murray can both play the 3 and the 4. So that'd be cool.
Correct. And then he's athletic. He's athletic. He probably run the lanes with, because De'Aaron Fox, sometimes one of their biggest issues is he's ahead of everybody.
Yeah, he's 8 steps
So
ahead of everybody.
Yeah, so if they can get some quickness and athleticism at the 3, because Malik Monk is really good for them off the bench, but he's not a 3.
No,
And so I think Kuminga would be a good one, but Paulo's a pretty good one too.
yeah, I like both of those. Honestly, I think those. Kuminga is actually a legitimate one they might be able to get. I don't think they could get Paolo. I don't think Ryan. I think if Paolo goes anywhere, he's a future Laker, because that's what happens to any number 1 picks Orlando Magic get. But I hope so, at least at some point. But yeah, I don't know if Paolo's gettable at this point, because that's gonna be franchise player numbers and pay and salary. So it's just probably not gonna happen.
But I'm gonna throw one out there. I'm gonna throw one out there since we're talking about young people. I like to see Anthony Edwards with that team too.
I like Anthony Edwards a lot, man. It's still numbers wise, it probably won't work because Fox and Sabonis are gonna be making, big time money, and it's Anthony Edwards is a max contract player, so
Of course, now we talk about that, but we're talking about as far as like
We said for fun.
yeah, you said for fun.
Anthony Edwards would be a fun one. I would definitely like to see that one too. I don't really like Anthony Edwards in Minnesota, although Minnesota's playing really well this season. I feel like he doesn't fit for some reason. I definitely think he needs a different market, but we'll focus on that when we get to their division.
You want to talk about a team that has 0 home losses?
The Lakers,
Would that
baby.
be, Mike?
It's crazy. No,
The
home
Lakers.
losses. They just
Lakers.
can't win on the road.
So the Lakers are the most sensitive topic that you can have on any podcast. Just so you guys know this. I've actually looked up stuff that they talk about, that any team that mentions the Lakers, any podcast that mentions the Lakers automatically has views go up. So every week we do this podcast, we have to talk about the Lakers at least a little bit, which shouldn't be too hard because you have a Laker lover in me, and then also you have a Laker hater in Michael Van Wyck. So
I'm not a Laker hater. let's not go there. I'm not a Laker
Mike
hater.
is a Kobe hater, which
There
is
it
even
is.
worse. It's even worse.
Is it
Yeah,
though?
for Laker fans, that's worse, Mike.
That's fine, but we're not. That's not what this is about. We're talking about the current team.
Well, the current team.
We're not going off on this whole Kobe tangent every.
Well, I can't wait.
We will have an
I
episode.
can't wait till LeBron
entire
leaves
episode.
as a Laker fan.
We're going to have an entire episode on as an intervention to Mike's hate towards Kobe Bryant.
I can't wait. That sounds so fun.
You know I'm going to do it too, right?
Yeah,
I have like
I believe
30
it.
people in this podcast just like ready to be there for you and let you get
Grab
through this.
popcorn. We'll be. Oh, you can't see it. Blur it out.
Okay, so this Laker roster, it has been an interesting start to the season. Our records right now, I think we're at 500.
5-5. Yep.
5-5. We just won tonight against the Portland Trail Blazers.
Game win streak.
Yes, I don't think LeBron played today.
Nope.
We had our own basketball league today, so I did not. I usually watch every Laker game. I did not get to watch this game tonight. But no, LeBron did not play tonight. And the team pulled through, which was something I'm happy to see. I like watching that happen when teams are missing their best player and somehow pull off a win, although it was against the Warriors or the Blazers, I'm sorry, which might be one of the worst teams in the league right now.
3-6.
Yeah. Anthony Davis, 30 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists. Rui, 19 points, 5 rebounds. Cam Reddish had 18.7 rebounds. D'Angelo Russell had 11 points, 11 assists, and 5 rebounds. And then Austin Reeves had 18 points off the bench. Austin Reeves has 18 points, 4 assists, and 4 rebounds off the bench. Austin Reeves has been moved to the bench in favor of Cam Reddish, which is kind of surprising for me to see that. Cam has played well in the last 2 games. I believe he had 17 in the last game. He did miss a game winner 3 games ago. It was, I believe. Right.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. He's playing pretty well right now. He does have a lot of length, which I think a lot of teams are trying to do. I think this Lakers team actually did a good job in assembling this roster with. Cam Reddish is about 6'7", 6'8". Taurean Prince is also about 6'8", 6'9". I loved Rui to begin with. I thought that was a great trade that they made for him last year. He's also about 6'9".
And then Christian Wood, don't forget about that.
I could forget about Christian Wood, to be honest with you. That was the one signing I did not like that the Lakers made. I will gladly forget about Christian Wood.
Really?
Bench today and played 15 minutes against the Portland Blazers and had 7 points and 1 rebound. I am not crazy about Christian Wood. He has potential to be a much better player than he is. I think he's one of those guys that lives down to his potential. He will every once in a while shock you with an amazing game, and then he's going to go back to Christian Wood ways and not play defense, take poor shots. I would have rather they signed somebody else, to be honest with you. Dwight being one of those guys.
Stuck on Dwight Howard.
I am for tactical purposes only. I think that Jokic will eat the Lakers alive again when they play him. I don't think Rui did the best on him, and that's because Rui has some girth to him. Anthony Davis just does not have the weight to bang against Jokic, Embiid, any of these big time centers that are just pound away on him. I want to win, and I don't think the Lakers can beat those teams. I don't even know if Anthony Davis can handle Porzingis, to be honest with you, if they play him in the finals.
Anthony Davis is another overrated player. I think a lot of people had him a couple years ago saying he's a top 5 player, and I just never saw it. I think he's a good defender. I think he's a good scorer, but I just don't think night in night out want to be your number one.
He's a good second or third option.
Yeah, and
when your number one option is a damn near 40-year-old.
Yeah,
I'm a Laker fan, but I can't wait till this era of Laker basketball changes.
Well, and to be fair, I think LeBron's on the same page as you. I don't think LeBron wanted to be the number one guy, and I don't think he wanted to support a whole team nonstop like this. And every Laker fan, every time you hear somebody, they're like, "No, it's AD's team. AD's going to be the guy. AD's not going to be the guy." And I think that they're relying way too much on a 39-year-old dude who still has it. Don't get me wrong, LeBron James still has it, but night in and night out for 82 games, and then you're going to have him go in 7-game series and try to be the guy every single day. I don't think you can do that at this point.
That ball stops a lot when it's in his hands. So we're not going to get into that. I don't want to get into that. We can leave that for another day, but I'm telling you, I can't wait.
We're gonna get into it just a little bit because I'm a Laker fan. I want the Lakers. Sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
LeBron's got to pick spots. He settles more because you've played as you get older. You get tired. You don't want to run as much. You don't want to get hit as much. He's got other priorities.
I have no problem with that. I actually agree with that, Mike. My issue is that it is give and take with LeBron. LeBron will do that, but then at other points during the game, LeBron will decide he's going to do it his way again. I think LeBron is kind of stuck in between of figuring out, does he want to still be that number one option? Because I don't think he really wants, he might act like he wants to let it go. He might act like it's Anthony Davis's team, but a lot of times he plays like it's his team and he wants to go through him. He wants to be that guy.
Rightfully so. His ego's way too big.
Right.
To be that.
I have one example for you. I have one
want or a need.
Mike, I have one example for you. He just had the game where he kicked the ball out to Cam Reddish, who missed the shot. And he's talking about that 2 days later, talking about how he makes the right play every single time down the floor. These things bother him so much. This is like obsessed with greatness so much that I think it actually takes away from him possibly winning more right now.
He's done that.
I personally believe that. Watching him, I watch every game, man. Like I think he needs to let some of that go and maybe take a step back and not worry about that so the team can develop a little bit more. And I think he's kind of stuck in between. He hasn't been able to figure that out, which I get is hard from a guy who's always been the number one.
I think he steps in and does what he wants to do when he sees a need, when he sees that they're falling behind and he needs to do something. I'm going to give LeBron James credit all day just because of what he has done. And I mean, going back to what you said, he made a pass and he always makes it right. He said that back in his Cleveland days. He said that in Miami. People used to get on him. You need to take that shot. You need to do. And he said, I'm making the right pass to the right open player who has the open shot.
Then make or miss. You did your part and make the right play and just shut the hell up.
Exactly.
But they're asking about that.
Yeah, but
no. Actually, when he referenced that, it was after the next game when they had won, and Cam Reddish didn't hit a game winner, but he did hit a go-ahead 3-pointer, and that was what he was referencing to. So if he just let it go and didn't say anything about it, I wouldn't have cared. I would have been like, okay, it was a good play. I didn't even care about the first shot that he took, the pass that he made to Cam Reddish. I didn't care. I've come to expect that from him. That's not his game. His game is this. It's making that pass. But the fact that he's so obsessed with it that he would listen to all the commentary and then go talk about it the very next game, like that's the stuff that it's like that ego thing that Omar mentioned. It's like at some point he's got to let that go. And I feel like that does affect, it doesn't affect him. It affects
the weak-minded Lakers that are around him that are not built for the spotlight of LA. See, playing in LA is a whole different spotlight. And I'm a fan, but let's take Gabe Vincent, for example. When he was in Miami, he was balling the hell out. He's now in LA and can't shoot a lick. And this happens to a lot of players that come, the Lakers end up signing a guy that had a great season the prior, comes to the Lakers, and all of a sudden can't play. If your best player, if your leader of the team can't rally you up mentally, we're in trouble. I'm a Laker fan. We're in trouble. And that's what Zico's trying to reference there.
Yeah, I don't know if we're in trouble. It's too early in the season for me to say that we're in trouble. I think there are some red flags that are concerning. I agree with you about the Gabe Vincent signing. I understood the signing because you wanted to improve your shooting from the point guard position off the bench because Schroeder could not shoot. But I think you actually took a step back from a standpoint of Schroeder actually had a really good chemistry with his team. I think Schroeder was a better defender. I think Schroeder was better to play alongside D'Angelo Russell because he could chase more and allow D'Angelo Russell to move to the shooting guard position. Schroeder kind of reminds me of like a poor man's version of Rajon Rondo. I preferred keeping him, but I understand why they signed Gabe Vincent. I don't think it was the correct move. And I think some of that is going to be seen now because when you play next to LeBron and LeBron holds that ball, and now you're used to playing in Miami where that ball is moving. Like Miami is one of the teams I like watching a lot, especially last season. When you play on a team where that ball is moving so much, and now it's one person is going to hold the ball, and I have to be ready to catch and shoot when they pass it, as opposed to moving the ball. It's a completely different catch and shoot mentality. And I think you're seeing that with Gabe Vincent right now, where he's struggling with his shot a little bit because the way it's coming to him, as opposed to him being a good or not good shooter or whatever you want to call it.
I think you mentioned D'Angelo Russell. I think he needs to provide a lot more. I think they signed him thinking he was going to be who he has been in the past. And I think he could still get there, but I think when Vanderbilt gets back and starts playing, I think that'll help him out a lot more than people realize, just because defensively he's everywhere. He hustles, he adds. Him and Rui played great side by side when they were playing. I think Vanderbilt's going to be a lot of help.
Those are actually my two favorite Lakers right now, Vanderbilt and Rui. I've always kind of had like a random favorite Laker. Those two are my favorite Lakers right now. I think both of them provide really important attributes that are every team in the NBA wants right now. First of all, like the small forward / power forward / center position that you could put them into any of them with different lineups. I think those are really important. And the fact that Rui could kind of bang a little more, but Vanderbilt can chase. You know, Vanderbilt was guarding Curry in the playoffs.
Yeah, he can guard the perimeter. He brings that old school Kevin Garnett type of feel on the defensive end, ability to guard the 1 through 5, depending on who that matchup is. But you bring up a valid point. Rui was, big fan of him too. But the issue that we have as Laker fans is the inconsistency with the playing time of these players. It's hard to understand it. What's going on? We're not there. We can't speak on it from that perspective. But there's inconsistency in the rotations. There's always a different rotation. Players getting different kinds of minutes. There's no consistency. So that's the confusing part. And it affects these younger players and affects these guys that are playing, like you said, with a ball dominant, superstar. It all adds up to the mental aspect of the game that affects their performance.
I think touching that really quick, I'm going to give you a reference. There's multiple teams I like watching. I'm going to let you guys know what they are. Number one, I watch pretty much every single Lakers game, unless I'm busy like tonight. We obviously had our own games that I was there for. The Lakers, the Mavs, 76ers, the Knicks, the Heat, Denver Nuggets, and the Warriors. Those are the teams I probably watch the most. So with those teams, my NBA TV is going all the time. I'm working and watching those games.
Wait, he didn't mention Phoenix Suns, right? I thought he gave me shit about he's been watching Phoenix Suns.
I've watched a few of their games, yes, matched up against some of the teams.
Look at it.
But yes,
so far behind watching basketball.
I did. I've watched multiple. What's it called? San Antonio Spurs games this season as well.
Those because Wemby's nice.
Yeah, Wemby's nice. I like Wemby. It's going to take time, but he's going to be really good. But I'm going to reference something important that's relevant to this. The New York Knicks. I've always been a Knicks fan. It's like a weird thing. I got to go to a Madison Square Garden game when I was younger, and it was one of the best things I've ever done in my life. It's a lot of fun. If you guys ever get an opportunity, go. New Yorkers are crazy in general. They're the worst fans in the world. They're worse than Lakers.
Really?
No, Mike, I'm telling you, they're worse than Lakers. It's unbelievable. But going to the games is hilarious. Like you're gonna laugh the entire time just by their commentary, and the games are intense. So watching the Knicks last season, there was a storyline that would go, you could hear it spill over from the announcers, Julius Randle and Obi Toppin. Julius Randle was playing a majority of the game. I think he averaged like 37, 38 minutes a game. Obi Toppin was coming off the bench playing limited minutes. But the fans and the announcers all felt that Obi Toppin was a better fit with the team than Julius Randle was. Julius Randle dominated the ball, but Julius Randle was 25, 10, and 5, which only two other guys in the NBA did that, Giannis and Jokic. A lot of people were upset with Julius Randle. They wanted him traded. Again, announcers were talking about this on the games, which blew my mind. And Obi Toppin wanted to be traded this summer. He felt like he needed to play more. He goes to Indiana, and he's playing for the Pacers. However, his minutes are limited even as a starter. And looking at those teams, you're going to have a old school minded coach in Tom Thibodeau and another old school minded coach in Rick Carlisle. And for Laker fans, we have an old school minded coach as well, even if he's one of the younger ones. What happens a lot with coaches like that, and Omar, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Everything is based off of practice. So the guys that are practicing well and kicking ass in practice, if you have a good practice, you're going to get those minutes in the games. If you are lagging in practice, you're going to get those minutes taken away in the games. So think about it from this standpoint. And I heard this from other people, from Knick fans, from my Knick fan, my New York family that's over there. Imagine Julius Randle kicking the living shit out of Obi Toppin in practice every single day. And fans don't see that. Fans see Obi Toppin coming in and getting dunks every single night. But Julius Randle's kicking his ass in practice every day. The coach sees this. The fans see the dunk. The fans want Obi and are upset why Obi's not getting those minutes. But Julius Randle's earning them. You have to wonder what's going on in practice at the Lakers practices for it to be this way. You know, Austin Reeves, a guy who started last season, just lost his starting spot. He's probably tired from playing Team USA all summer. He's probably a step slow because he didn't have that summer to train and practice. And someone's probably getting the better of him. Right now, it looks like it's Cam Reddish.
I think that's more of a spark plug play. They need a 6-man coming in, bringing energy. I think that's more.
I kind of agree with Mike on the Austin Reeves example.
Watching the Spurs back in the day, no one was giving Manu anything that put him on the bench other than Manu being the spark plug off the bench. So
true. I agree with that. But I was mentioning Reeves. I don't think that's the only situation. Ruiz, another one of those. Sometimes he's getting 30 plus minutes a game. Then the other next night he's getting 16. It's inconsistent. But I think you're looking at a coach who's old school and he's going to base everything off of practice. And Rui having one bad practice might translate to Rui, you're not going to play as much today because I don't think you're ready to play as much today.
And quoting one of the GOATs, you talking about practice?
Man, that's taken so far out of context.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
That nonsense. Hey, how are we doing on time? Because I know we said 30 minutes.
Yeah. That's a pipe dream. You guys know that's a pipe dream. I think
we're past my bedtime. So
we started past my bedtime.
It is past 12:30 at this point on a Sunday night. We all have work in the morning. I think we could definitely leave it off there. Before we do though, what do the Lakers have to do to turn the ship around, or at least put it on a path to become at least a title contender?
I think they have the right pieces. I think they need more out of Russell. I think Anthony Davis needs to get consistent, but I think Vanderbilt's going to be the change. I don't think outside of that they need to do anything different. But realistically, I think they're still stuck in the same spot they were last year. Their Western Conference Finals. I don't know if they're getting past that or if they can. Just because looking at how they've played from last year and then into this year, LeBron James isn't gonna. He's not gonna have 21 games in the playoffs where he's got to be the guy. He's not doing that anymore. And I think they just got too gassed, and he worked too hard to get him past Golden State. I think it'll be the same situation.
Where do you see the Lakers falling in the playoff seeding?
I don't think they'll be in the play-in this year. I think they'll definitely be.
They're a top 6 team.
I think they'll figure out a way to get into there just because, like I said, I don't think they want to go through that play in that extra game. I think that's where they'll push to make their difference. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to be much different.
Omar?
You know what? I'm a little biased right now because I am a Laker fan, but I'm not a happy camper. So really, I'm gonna avoid the first part of the question, but as far as the playoff seeding, I'm gonna say probably like fifth seed.
Okay, who do you have ahead of them?
Denver,
Denver, I agree.
Golden State, if they stay healthy.
No ifs.
What? No ifs.
Yeah,
Can't
no
do
ifs.
ifs. Just say who it is. Golden State.
Okay. Like I said, so Golden State. We said Denver. I'm gonna put. Hold on, I just want to make sure I'm. So because I want to make sure.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now, it is brutal in the West.
No, I
Dallas.
got you. Well, Dallas. Yeah. So we talk about Dallas. We talk about Dallas, Denver, Golden State. Um, I'm gonna go with Minnesota and OKC.
Minnesota.
Oh yeah, Minnesota's really good this season, Mike.
You think they're going to be up there the whole season though? No,
Because they're actually playing defense.
Yeah, Anthony Edwards is, by the way, a huge credit to two guys on that team defensively. Gobert is looking like the old Gobert right now. He's playing unbelievably well right now. And Jaden McDaniels, he's a younger player, but he's coming into his own. He's going to be one of the best defensive players in the NBA.
And you guys also, I want to point this out. They have a rookie who's coming off an injury, but was also Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year in Jalen Clark, who's going to add more defensive, firepower to that team. And he's young and he's 6'4", so he brings length to that team. So they're
and Mike
better.
Conley, who's an old school elite defender.
So they're starting off on the defensive end.
Yeah, Minnie's good, Mike. You should watch him play. Anthony Edwards is like this summer. I feel like his game really elevated. Minnesota's for real, man. I don't disagree with Omar at all.
Okay, maybe regular season, but come playoff time, they're going to do the same thing as always.
Omar,
Gobert's
did you mention
covering the perimeter, Cat's not covering the perimeter, and they're just going to get exposed.
in the playoffs? I agree they will because they're still young enough. It's going to happen.
Actually, no, I didn't have Phoenix there because if
Yeah,
the Lakers, I have the Lakers topping the Phoenix because we had Denver, Dallas, Golden State 3. We talk about Minnesota was my dark horse for being higher than the Lakers, and then what do you call it? OKC is also another dark horse for me.
Yeah, I really like OKC. I can't wait to talk about them. They've got a bright future. It's just the West is nuts, man. Like just as a note, you did not mention the Clippers. You did not mention New Orleans. You did not mention Sacramento. I think it's going to be absolutely brutal in the West. Houston's doing well right now. They're 6-3. I think that's gonna die off really quick. I don't think they maybe are end of the line playing team.
Does Memphis get it together?
Not this season, no. I think
No, Memphis this season, if they make the play-in, it's going to be a successful season for them if they make the play-in.
even when Ja gets back 25 games in, they're already 2-8. I think by the time he gets there, I don't think they're gonna have 10 wins. It's not even close. I think you're looking at like a 5 to 8 wins at that point. So
yeah, we'll talk about it next time, but I don't know about that Marcus Smart trade if it's going to hurt them or benefit them.
okay, guys. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to do the podcast. Thank you for anyone that actually listened this long. We greatly appreciate any support we can get. We're starting this off pretty much at ground up. Hopefully the players in our league will listen so we can use that to start building this. But we will be sharing this on YouTube. We will be sharing this on Spotify and on Apple Music. So thank you to anyone who listens. And
like everyone else says on all their other podcasts, like and subscribe.
Yeah, like and subscribe.
Definitely like and subscribe.
Do both of those things.
Mike, that's your job from now on. End of every episode. Remind
like and subscribe. For sure. I got that one in the bag.
All right, guys.
All right.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Thanks, Mike.
He just left. Are you still recording?
All right. I'm recording. I'll edit that out.